Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shining Resonance Refrain. This is an enhanced remaster of 2014's Japanese only Shining Resonance for PlayStation 3. Even more meaningful for this player is the fact that this is the first Shining game in over a decade to be brought to the West. This remastered edition includes all of the DLC originally purchasable for the PlayStation 3 version, along with a new way to play in the included Refrain mode. Refrain mode is available from the moment the game starts, though as it is composed of alternative storylines and differing playable character options, the game suggests playing the game in original mode first. Shining Resonance Refrain takes place on the island of Alfheim in the kingdom of Astoria. In classic Shining style, Alfheim was the glorious home of elves and dragons that existed peacefully under the divine being Deus, until at least Deus got salty and decided to just wipe everything out and start over. Because dragons? Long story short, some of the elves were on Team Deus, some were on Team Dragon, and eventually Deus was sealed up so that no more funny business could occur. Reminds me of the awesome Dark Soul, Dark Dragon plotline of Shining Force, but I digress. Fast forward to current time in the world of Shining Resonance Refrain, we have the classic fantasy tropes that we all know and love. Yuma, some poor sap with a dragon of all dragons wrapped up in his soul, is a reluctant hero with poor self-confidence, an orphan, has a self-loathing attitude toward his awesome powers, and is terribly awkward around the ladies. He is quickly joined and rescued by the Princess of Astoria, Sonia, and her band of Dragoneers in order to save the world from the growing evils of Lombardia, aka bad guys. Also of note about the story is that there is a lot of it, ranging from extremely frequent visual novel style conversations to odd flashbacks experienced by Yuna. You better be willing to be patient in addition to hacking and slashing. Personally though, I have found the balance of story and combat quite pleasant thus far. Gameplay for Shining Resonance Refrain is fairly typical of modern JRPGs. The player is in control of the current leader of the party, which can be reassigned at any time through the menu, and is followed around by the non-leader party members in most contexts. The hub town of Marga offers all of the typical amenities. Plenty of time will be spent in the inn, both for rest and story advancement. Seems like all the Dragoneers crash there also. There is an alchemy shop run by a child, of course, this is a JRPG, where new items and weapon enhancements can be synthesized by providing items gathered on your adventures. An item shop where you can obviously buy items, and a tuning shop. Why is there something called a tuning shop, you ask? If the clever title of the game did not give it away already, music plays a significant role in the gameplay of Shining Resonance Refrain. Weapons used by the Dragoneers are called harmonics, which double as instruments, and initially were developed from the body of the Shining Dragon himself. Furthermore, Band, aka Battle Anthem of the Noble Dragoneers, performances can turn the tides of battle in various ways depending on the composition of the party at the time. Therefore, the tuning and aspect systems of the game are used to alter the abilities and songs of the various weapons. One gripe about gameplay comes in the form of travel, or the lack thereof. While there is an item called a Marga Stone which will teleport the party back to the hub city, no other options for fast travel are available. This wouldn't be as much of an issue if it weren't for the fact that each time you leave Marga on a quest of sorts, and there are many, it seems like the distance grows larger and larger. Sure, you can teleport back to town for 200 gold, but what about having to travel right back the way you just came from when you start your next quest line? Thankfully, the landscape has campsites periodically for you to rest and save, but it would have been nice for those campsites to maybe be way stations of sorts that you could hop between for a fee. At least you have night talks at campfires. More on that later. And now for some combat. The combat system for Shining Resonance Refrain is essentially what you would expect from a typical JRPG these days. You have the staple maneuvers of attack, dash, and shield, as well as a break attack that is unique to each playable character, which can help out in various ways. As you go further into the game, you can unlock abilities called force abilities, which include things like special melee attacks, defensive maneuvers, spells, and the like. These are helpful because as you're battling, your stamina bar goes down, and the best thing to do when you're waiting for it to go back up, use a force ability. It's what I would say is both a fresh and dated version of combat. Camera woes and unpleasantly random AI helpers remind the player that this game did not originate in the current generation of consoles, but not to the point of being unplayable by any means at all. Camera angles do get a little bit better as you progress, simply because you're more used to them, and it would also help if the game would have told me earlier on that I can lock on. Finally, playing as Yuma, you have the ability to go into what's called Dragon Mode and basically just tear up other people as the Shining Dragon himself. The only problem with this is if you are not wary of your mana level or simply just how much damage you're causing, sweet little Yuma and the Shining Dragon can go into what's called Berserk Mode, causing you to lose all control and basically have your own little pet dragon attacking you and everything else on the screen. So please be mindful whenever you're playing as the dragon. One final note for combat is unless you are at level for where you need to be, you're probably going to die a couple times. Thankfully though, the game over screen isn't totally against you. Instead, you are allowed to either return to the fight or just go back to the last time you saved. Besides just managing combat-based abilities, the player is also charged with taking care of the bonds that Yuma has with the other characters in his party. This can range from being a good friend to, we'll just call it a romantic relationship, where depending on what you do in the game, you can either boost or change these bonds as you play through. Another aspect of this is going on date nights with characters, though they don't really call it that, they just call it night talks, but we already know what that means. This can be accomplished by talking to your various party members, answering questions they have, and ultimately inviting them to hang out after hours. This can be accomplished through sleeping at the inn, or if you go to one of the various campgrounds in the game, you can just rest at the campsite and then voila, you're on a date night talk with one of the characters. One thing that's interesting about this is that Sega did include the ability to do this with either female or male characters, so there's no restrictions in that area. Otherwise, relationships involve different characters throwing shade at poor Yuma here. So even his inner voice was throwing shade at him for not helping Sonya in the beginning whenever he didn't even want to fight. But the ultimate shade, in my opinion, is tossed out by the innkeeper's daughter Primula. Are you Sonya's friend too? You don't look very bright. Come on. Of course, you can't have a JRPG without the ability to change outfits, but I am a little curious why the women in this game have tremendously more outfits than poor Yuma here does. I mean, as you can see, they all pretty much just amount to different shades and versions of swimwear, essentially. Yuma just has one other outfit that essentially makes him look like Prince joined Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Oh well, it's better than nothing. And of course, you can't have different outfits without having those outfits in every single dialogue in the game. So, you know, even if you're talking about serious topics, might as well wear a bikini, right? While I'm not yet 100% finished with this game, as far as JRPGs go, Shining Resonance Refrain ticks all the boxes. A search for meaning, reluctant heroes, scantily clad heroines, random weird creatures to swing swords and spells at, and of course a quest to save a happy land from evildoers. There's certainly some kinks to be ironed out, but so far Shining Resonance Refrain has been an enjoyable game with the nostalgic feeling of an old school RPG, both in story and characters. And if you are craving more gamer news and reviews, be sure to check out Gamer Nation News, and come back next time.